This is my first ever YouTube video. Hi camera, my name is David. It is very nice to meet you, my very first subscriber. How are you doing on this lovely day? Thank you for watching my very first video where I exaggerated the title. Just a little bit. I mean, yeah, I don't love what I'm studying right now, but I do know what I love, and a health degree can help me get to the career I want to pursue. More on that later. But first, a little bit about me. Like I mentioned previously, my name is David. I'm a junior health major at... Sorry, I think I'm gonna go ahead and beep out that part because I do not want to make it seem like my situation is a misfortune caused by the mismanagement of my university, because in reality, that's just not the case at all. My university experience has been absolutely phenomenal, and even if my health degree will not be directly used towards my career path, I would still like to finish. So that is basically a general introduction about me and where I am at this point of my college journey. So here's basically the story of what led me to this major, what my original plan is, what went wrong, and basically what my plan is right now and going forward. Also, if you are a health major, please do not take anything I say in this video personally, because a lot of what I say in this video are my personal opinions and perspectives, and if you disagree, you disagree. I think that's pretty normal. I don't know. I mean, I do have a pretty long history of coming up with horrible hot takes that nobody ends up agreeing with.
Hi, this is Editing David here, and oh my goodness, I did not realize that this story I am about to tell you in this video can literally be my future autobiography. I'd like to apologize for that, but I do think a lot of you guys will get some value out of this so you don't make the same mistakes as I made, and I think it's quite an interesting story. I'll also include a bunch of helpful tips for health majors going through the coursework, as well as tips for other majors who want to jumpstart their careers. You'll get some value too, so enjoy.
So as a kid, I was very apathetic. Actually, that's probably not the best word to describe my childhood, because while I didn't give a whole lot of fucks about anything, I was also pretty emotional back then, and I think I still am now. What word only describes someone who doesn't show interest in anything? Uninspired. That's right, I was pretty uninspired as a kid. I think you can tell I didn't read much as a kid either. Anyways, as a kid, my Asian parents would literally sign me up for every extracurricular activity they can catch their eye on, as what Asian parents seem to love to do for some reason. And while most of the kids would at least excel in one activity out of the bunch, I unfortunately didn't. And it was pretty clear at the time that I didn't have any true passion or interest in any of those activities either. However, there was one activity that I did enjoy, and it's an activity I still enjoy to this day, and that is art. Letting my imagination go wild and expressing my creativity was what really made art my favorite hobby for as long as I can remember, and probably for the rest of my life. Tragically, I quickly realized that it is very hard to make a living with art. So fast forward to 2015 when I was in 8th grade. My 8th grade year was a pretty interesting one to say the least. I gave absolutely zero fucks about my classes and I got suspended like 8 times. Looking back at it, what made this year really strange was how I really just started to get horrible grades and trouble in school out of nowhere. I mean, before that year, I wouldn't consider myself like a super bright student, especially under Asian standards, but I never had problems in school. So obviously my parents were really concerned, and so was my counselor, because all of those factors are very common symptoms of either something tragic happened or I was bullied. But the truth is, nothing really tragic happened to me at that time, and I was not bullied at all. To this day, what happened that year is still a mystery, and the only explanation I can think of was just that I was just super lazy. But regardless, my parents and I both agreed that it is time to switch things up and move in a different direction. So I enrolled in a health science program in my high school. Growing up, I've always been encouraged to become a doctor by my peers because, well, doctors make a boatload of money. It was during my sophomore year of high school when I realized that doctors need a lot of schooling, as if it wasn't common knowledge already. Look, I'm sorry, I wasn't the brightest kid. Like, if you think I sound kinda silly and retarded right now, you could only imagine how I was 7 years ago, when my IQ was probably half of what it is now. Anyways, once I learned about the long-term commitment and sacrifice it takes to become a doctor, I decided to do what literally every pre-med dropout would do, and looking to become a nurse. Side note, please don't take offense, pre-med dropouts. I totally understand you. Being a doctor is hard, nurses are also great, and I really appreciate you. So anyhow, becoming a nurse is exactly what I wanted to do throughout the rest of my high school years. I even got my CNA license during my senior year of high school, which I guess is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I never really ended up using it because of and it is definitely expired by now. Fast forward to now, I'm in college. Actually, fast forward 2 years ago, since I started college 2 years ago. Dang, time flies. Anyways, when I started college, I was more than determined to graduate with a nursing degree. Now, as you may have remembered from the title and from what I mentioned from earlier in this video, I am a health major, not a nursing major. Why is that? Well, the institution I am attending does not have nursing as a freshman year major. You have to apply to it. But since this institution is the only institution that gave me a full ride, I decided to pursue. Now, the nursing program here is known to not be super competitive, and that was the reason why I felt pretty confident that I could just apply and most likely I'll get in as long as I have a competitive GPA. During my freshman year, everything came to plan. I took the freshman level classes that I need to take during COVID, when classes are not that hard, and I came out with a 4.0. Looks like my quest to becoming a nurse is within reach, right? Well, not so fast. During my sophomore year, the reality of being a college student started to come out and bite me when I least expected it. I expected classes to be a little bit harder as I am having more in-person classes, but dang, I was not prepared for this at all. My electives and my 3-credit health classes were okay, but my science class really fucked me over. You see, during COVID, my science classes had online labs, where basically all I did was perform a simple simulation of the experiment on Connect, and that was pretty much it. I did not have to write any lab reports, and I never had a lab practical or a lab exam. Well, that was not the case at all for my sophomore year. During my sophomore year, I took a class called Intro to Microbiology, which is statistically one of the easier science classes. However, unfortunately, that was not the case at all for me. Now, I admit it, I'm not perfectly innocent in this situation. I could have definitely done some things differently, and I do hold myself accountable. But most of it is due to the professor and just how the course is designed, and how unfortunately this professor is the only professor available for this course. So part of the reason why this course was so challenging for me was because the labs were in person. Since I never got the lab training or experience I would have gotten if my labs were in person during my freshman year, I had a lot of trouble following some of these lab procedures. And unfortunately, it seemed like everyone in that class period had trouble as well. My TA for that lab is also an international student from China with a very thick accent, so thick that I even had trouble understanding what she was talking about. And yes, I am Chinese and I speak the language conversationally. I wouldn't consider myself fluent though. So all of those factors combined basically led me to not have a very good grade for these experiments. I also went through like 3 different lab partners throughout the semester because people kept dropping the class. Now, even though none of this was really under my control, I admit it, this part is on me. I could have done a little bit better. I could have definitely prepared a little bit better for labs, and I could have taken these simulations more seriously as a freshman. Now, here's where it gets really fucked up. My professor took pride in making her exams as rigged as possible. Like seriously, she bragged about intentionally making her questions ridiculously tricky. Like it's something she wants us students to admire her about. I mean, what kind of devil are you? I thought as professors, your job is to prepare students for their future careers, not scare them away from it. Here's kind of an example of how difficult this professor can be. Just about every question on her exam asks about a very general topic in a which of the following is true type of question format. And she copy pastes 3 facts about the topic from the PowerPoint and uses those 3 facts as answer choices. But she changes like a word or 2 from some of the answer choices to make the answer choices an untrue statement, making it ultimately an incorrect answer. And on top of that, there are also variations of correct answers like A, B, A, C, ABC, you get the point. Now, I perfectly understand having 1 or 2 questions like that to make sure students are paying attention. But imagine putting 30 questions like that in a 30-question exam, and you only get like 50 minutes to complete the exam. You see how difficult this can get for some students who aren't super talented at memorizing stuff like me? In fact, I literally had to handwrite every single slide word for word just to not fail. Now, for anyone who is stuck in a class that is based off of pure memorization, try writing down every word from every single PowerPoint slide. I know it can be a tedious process, but coming from personal experience, it definitely helps. Long story short, I got a C in that class. So after that semester, unfortunately, my perfect 4.0 GPA disappeared in obscurity, just like my confidence in becoming a nurse. The very funny thing is that right after I finished that class, this professor decided it is time to retire. I know, right? Great luck. In fact, my bad luck seems to be a pretty consistent trend through the rest of my undergrad. This was also the time when I started to really question my career choice and my degree plan. I mean, nursing is pretty demanding, and the prerequisites can be quite challenging despite a mediocre salary. And I know my mindset towards that fact is not the best, but truth be told, compared to most of my peers, I really dislike studying. But I do enjoy doing projects. Now, there's obviously other reasons why I started to feel uncertain about being a nurse, but I think for the sake of this video, I'll leave it at that. However, since I was already halfway through the prerequisites, I decided to just stick with it. Because obviously there are advantages of being a nurse or working in the healthcare industry. Like, for example, it is pretty easy to get hired once you graduate, and layoffs are very rare. Anyways, my next 2 semesters were not super fun to say the least. The health classes and electives were okay. I had some struggles here and there, but in the end, I got mostly A's. As for science classes, yeah, I think it's better to just tell the story than coming up with an adjective. Now, if you're studying a major related to health science or healthcare, chances are you'll be forced to take Anatomy and Physiology 1 and Anatomy and Physiology 2. Now, for those who are not aware, Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2 are considered to be one of the hardest science classes out there. I mean, sure, obviously classes like OChem or Biochem are harder, but these 2 classes are definitely up there in the spectrum.
Anyways, I took Anatomy 1 during my second semester of my sophomore year, and it was okay. The content was of course challenging, but my professor did a great job, and he was actually fair when writing exam questions. But it still did require a ton of studying though. So last semester I took Anatomy 2, and it was a completely different story. I wouldn't say that my professor was necessarily bad, but she just wasn't super helpful in her situation. Let me explain. So when I registered for my Anatomy and Physiology 2 class, I noticed that taking it as a blended course is an option. Now, I'm the kind of person who absolutely hates facing the daily struggles of getting to class, like finding a parking spot and walking to class in the rain. So I would always want to do whatever I can to have class in my bedroom. So at the time, this blended class definitely seemed like a better idea than a fully in-person class. But boy was I wrong.
How this class worked is that I went to class twice a week for the lab, and the lecturer is fully online. The problem with this class is that there were no lectures on Zoom or anything. They were literally all recorded lectures. So essentially, I basically had to learn all of the content on my own. This was awful. Not only did this class kill my pride, social life, and mental health, but it also really made me question my career choice. I mean, as much as I disliked learning the information from this class, the information is certainly important for a nurse. About a week after I finished my Anatomy and Physiology 2 final exam, I got a strange and unexpected email. That email informed me that I got accepted into the nursing program. Somehow they accepted my dumbass. Now, for just about everyone else who have gotten that email, this is celebratable news. But for me, I just didn't feel very excited about it. And I had a really tough decision to make. I mean, I've worked multiple years for this goal. Should I really pass on this opportunity just because of a few classes? But on the other hand, some of these prereqs have damaged my mental health so much that I started to seriously wonder, maybe this is just not meant to be. Should I really enroll myself in a program that I've already shown signs of disliking, when I can give this spot to someone who actually wants to be a nurse, but unfortunately didn't get it? Luckily, I had about a month to decide. So, like just about every introvert who wants to work remotely, I decided to look for corporate career options. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I enjoy art, expressing my creativity, and making money. So the first industry that came into my mind is marketing. Now, I could change majors to marketing, but unfortunately, changing majors will probably make me a super senior before I graduate. So I decided to not do that. I just decided to go on LinkedIn to apply for as many marketing internships as I possibly can. And oh my goodness, marketing internships are a lot easier than I personally thought to get. I mean, for me, a previous job working at a call center at my school and an Eagle Scout on my resume was literally all it took for me to get an unpaid internship. Hey, I mean, I gotta start somewhere, right? So right before winter break, I got my first assignment for my marketing internship, which is basically to write a blog to improve the website SEO. So I went to Google Trends, searched for some relevant keywords, and came up with a list of keywords that I should focus on in my blog. I then used ChatGPT to write me a blog about the topic while asking it to focus on these specific keywords. I'm just kidding, I did not do that. Please do not do this. ChatGPT actually has the ability to remember and detect their previous responses. So if you choose to use ChatGPT to cheat, anyone who suspects this could literally just copy paste your work back into ChatGPT and ask it if this was their previous work. And if they say yes, you are pretty much finished. And trust me, a few hours is not worth ruining your reputation over. Anyways, I think I wrote about 8 blogs over the course of 3 months. I know it's not a lot, but I was an unpaid intern. But I'm still really glad I took that job over 3 months because I learned a lot about SEO and driving traffic to websites. Unfortunately, this internship was not super organized, and I felt like there was just no future in it long term. I originally came into this internship for professional experience that I can put on my resume, and that is exactly what I got. My boss agreed with me as well, and she really appreciated my time. She wrote me a good recommendation on my LinkedIn profile, and she also agreed to do whatever she can to recommend me if I ever need references in the future. And just like that, we mutually agreed to part ways, while keeping in touch, of course. So about 2 months ago, while in the process of applying for a summer internship, I actually found another marketing internship that will last for the rest of the spring. This is also unfortunately an unpaid internship. However, this one's actually about a startup company that involves blockchain. Now, I do not know a whole lot about blockchain technology, but what I do know is that it is a brand new and growing industry with tons of opportunities. So I figured it would not hurt to learn more about this industry. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll be the next successful crypto entrepreneur or the next crypto billionaire. I know, right? Keep dreaming, David. So another reason why I was super interested in this particular opportunity is because the owner of this blockchain technology startup actually had a very similar story as myself. He originally wanted to be a PA and had all of his prerequisite classes completed when he was an undergraduate student. However, he found out that he needed 1,000 hours worth of internships to get into PA school, which understandably he did not want to do. So he pursued entrepreneurship. And he actually already had 2 previous exits, and this is his 3rd business. I just feel like his story is just so inspiring and risky at the same time. I mean, I highly doubted that he had a whole lot to work with without a job after college, but despite that, he still became successful. Now, if you are looking into becoming a PA, I am not trying to scare you whatsoever. This startup owner graduated college over 10 years ago, and things may have changed. This internship has been a phenomenal experience. Not only did I have the opportunity to express my creative side, but I also learned more about marketing strategies for startups. So that's pretty much what I've been working on to this day. About 2 weeks ago, I got an interview for a summer account management internship. And during that interview, I shared my experiences and everything I've learned so far. And last week, I got the amazing news that I got the internship. This is going to be a much bigger hands-on experience for me, as this is for an advertising/marketing agency, which means I'll be able to witness how all sorts of brands are marketed and advertised. And I'm just so excited about this opportunity, and I'll certainly take you guys along with me. So this pretty much concludes my story. I know this ended up becoming a pretty long video, and I just really appreciate all you guys for sticking to the end. I think my story is a perfect example of how fast things can change for you. I mean, I went from someone who disliked what I was studying to getting a summer internship in something I genuinely enjoy without ever having to change my major. I also think my story is a perfect example of why you should try to find a career that you genuinely enjoy in, not just one that makes money. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two from my mistakes and successes in this video. Keep doing what you love, and I'll see you guys next time.